A joint effort between the Hamlet of Windwatch Homeowners Association and the Ronkonkoma Civic Association. Tonight we are here to discuss the casino that is coming in Islandia. I just want to mention a couple of people that have come to our meeting tonight. We have Joe Dasher here on behalf of Senator Tom Croce, who's sitting over there. We also have Kathleen Albrecht, who is representing Mike Fitzpatrick. We have legislator Tom Silmy with us tonight. Bruce Edwards, our president of the Civic, will be speaking first. We also have Bob Steele. He is from Larry Kelter from the Homeowners Association, and Bob Steele, who is an author of The Curse. He also he'll tell you a little bit about why he wrote this book and what's going on with casinos. So before we get started, I'd like Tom, would you lead us in the pledge?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now I'm going to have Bruce Edwards, our president of the Ronkonkoma Civic Association, take over.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for coming. Before I really get started, I want to just introduce Ron Bars. He's with the Hop Fire Department. He's a Hop resident. We've done some kind of things in parallel here, so they've put something together, and I'd like to
If anybody's interested, 7:30 Wednesday evening, Hop main headquarters. It'll be upstairs. Everybody's welcome to come. Through the Board of Fire Commissioners, which I was a member of, and the past chief of the Hop Fire Department, has given us permission to use the building. I feel it's an important issue to bring up. I know Bruce and I have talked, Larry and I have talked. I feel this has to be stopped because of what it's going to do to our communities and everybody else that doesn't realize within a 5-mile radius it's going to affect us. So anybody wishes to come to that meeting. We're probably going to be trying to set up an attorney, probably looking into filing against the town in Article 78. So please, if you can, the village, I'm sorry, village, wrong. I'm sorry. Yes, it's the main house on 111, across from the Brindle.
we'll be taking questions later.
All right? Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you. Again, also we'd like to thank the Lakeland Fire Department for allowing us to use their facility on short notice. We started putting this together Thursday afternoon, so we really jumped into this. And thank you all for coming. I'm glad we got a great turnout tonight. This issue is really a problem because Islandia, or at least the mayor of Islandia, seems to think that this is an issue that concerns his little village. And I really appreciate the Islandia residents coming here, the Ronkonkoma residents, and our Hop residents for coming here. Because there is no wall around Islandia. What happens in Islandia will bleed over into all our neighborhoods. We're just so close together, one does not mean a different thing than the other. We have just seen from the history of what's gone on here. We also have legislator Leslie Kennedy coming in the room, so I just want to say hello, Leslie. We've seen the history here that when our New York State government, for some reason or other, felt that casino gambling was an important thing for us, it boggles my mind why they think they need casino gambling on Long Island. I'm 60 years old. I'm almost 60. I'm almost 60 years old. I find new and wonderful things to do on Long Island every day, every week. We go somewhere. There's a beach. There's an arboretum. There's theaters. There's more things on Long Island than you can shake a stick at. We don't need a casino. That's the last thing we need on Long Island. That is, I'm sorry. I just don't believe it. And I want to thank the Medford residents, the guys from Medford and Ed and Brett, those people when Suffolk OTB attacked their neighborhood, they came out in force. They didn't stop. They listened to what the people in Elmont and the people in Westbury told them what to do, and what Ron was saying before about getting a lawyer. That's probably the next step for us all, and it'll be a joint effort. But the Medford folks went in there and they fought tooth and nail. They looked at the paperwork. They saw that OTB did not know what they were talking about. They were completely off base with what they thought. They thought they could just do anything they want. They could go marching in there. They're above the law, and it's not the case. They have to follow the law the same as everyone else. So I really want to thank the Medford folks for really fighting a great fight, and they did a great job. Thank you. We are going to look at a little bit of the history, like I said, the way this thing also broke out, and that's one of the things that Mr. Steele is going to talk about. This isn't just an issue that's happening here in Long Island. It's happening across New York State. It's happening across the country. And it's just, I'm sorry, casino is not how you build an economy. It doesn't work that way. I'm sorry. And when you look at something like the way OTB is done, they got $30 million in debt. If any of us or any corporation was $30 million in debt, they'd been closed down a long time ago. But for some reason, this zombie of a company just keeps rolling along. It's got to be put down. It's got to be done. I guess what we're looking at is the ways in which OTB operates. They seem to operate above the law, and I just don't understand how they can do that. So we're going to work with the law to stop it. That's what our goal is. And I know everyone has lots of questions, and we'll talk a little bit later, but I think what we'll do right now is we'll get an explanation of what Mr. Steele has gone through. We'll get his explanation. So let me just give you a quick update of background on Mr. Steele. Bob Steele is the chairman of the Connecticut-based NLC Mutual Insurance Company, and has been a director of numerous other companies, including the American Stock Exchange. A graduate of Elmhurst College and Columbia University, he served in the CIA and Congress and was a nominee for governor of Connecticut. He comes to us this evening, however, as an author to speak about Connecticut's casino experience and the background to his novel, The Curse, Big-Time Gambling Seduction of a Small New England Town. WBC Boston's Dan Reed calls the book powerful, and Connecticut author Mark Shapiro describes it as compelling and timely, a riveting story of history, money, politics that will make you wonder where America is headed. So, Mr. Steele.
Thank you very much, Bruce, and ladies and gentlemen, distinguished legislators who are here, thank you very much for your invitation, and thank you very much for your interest in my book, which, as Bruce said, is The Curse, Big-Time Gambling Seduction of a Small New England Town. The book is a fact-based novel set against the explosion of casino gambling in Connecticut back in the 1990s. The story begins with the Pequot War back in the 1600s, with the Connecticut colonists living up and down the Connecticut River from Windsor down to Saybrook, got together with their Mohegan allies and defeated and almost destroyed the Pequots, who were the largest and most warlike of the Connecticut tribes. The story then jumps some 350 years as these two tribes, the Mashantucket Pequots and the Mohegans, re-emerge almost miraculously thanks to Congress and the courts to build these two enormous enterprises in eastern Connecticut. And in the book, a fictional Connecticut family becomes embroiled in a battle to stop a third casino that threatens the family's town and ancestral home. And in the end, a quintessential New England town faces what is really a Faustian dilemma, whether or not to try to preserve its character and its values on the one hand, or accept what seems on the surface an enormously seductive offer that would change the town and the community forever. Now, the family and the town in the book are fictional, but the basic story has now played out in hundreds of communities across America, And since it is playing out once again here in Islandia, I thought that this evening I'd talk about the background to the book and what happened in Connecticut and what you can expect if a casino comes to your community. I should probably start, however, by giving you just a little bit more of my own background because it figured into my writing the book. I represented Eastern Connecticut, almost all the towns east of the Connecticut River, in Congress during the 1970s. That whole area where the casinos came in. And I then left my seat in Congress in order to run for governor of Connecticut. I was unsuccessful, and at that point I left politics, and my family, my wife and our 4 children, moved from the Hartford area down to southeastern Connecticut, down to Ledyard, Connecticut, long before anyone dreamed of casinos coming to our state. That experience, knowing the political backdrop as intimately as I did of Connecticut, and then seeing firsthand the impact of these casinos on our community and on our region, really gave me a front row seat for watching both the political machinations that led to the casinos and then, as I say, seeing their impact firsthand. Indian casinos got their start just a few years ago, really, back in 1988, 26, 27 years ago. Pretty new phenomenon. After Congress came along and passed something called the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act, which was meant to help poor, federally recognized Indian tribes build casinos on their reservations in order to raise money to support their tribal governments. It'd be fair to say, however, that Congress had absolutely no idea of the Pandora's box it was opening when it passed this law. Because as it turned out, the law not only opened the door to Native American casinos across the United States, but it spurred the legalization and the opening of non-Indian, so-called commercially owned casinos across the country as well. As state after state began to invite casinos in order to raise revenue without having to face the task of overtly and openly raising taxes. Back in 1988, when this law was passed, there were only 2 states that allowed casinos. Nevada, obviously, with Las Vegas, and New Jersey with Atlantic City. Today, 40 states now have casinos, and America is awash in casinos. We now have almost 1,000 of them, just about equally divided between Indian and commercially owned casinos. Nowhere, though, since 1988, did casino gambling get off to a more spectacular start than in the state of Connecticut. Foxwoods opened back in 1992 in my hometown of Ledyard, and Mohegan Sun opened 4 years later in 1996 in the town of Montville, about 7.5 miles away. Foxwoods was the first casino in the entire Northeast other than in Atlantic City, and with virtually no competition, both Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun quickly grew into 2 of the biggest casinos on the planet, attracting well over half their customers from out of state, mainly Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and New York, but from all over the Northeast, creating some 23,000 casino jobs and beginning to send hundreds of millions of dollars a year to the state treasury in Hartford. It's truly one of the most remarkable stories in the history of New England. These 2 tribes, Mashantucket Pequots and the Mohegans, once mortal enemies, trying to destroy each other, then gradually fading away for hundreds of years until there's almost no more Indian blood left, no more Indian culture left, and yet, thanks to Congress and the courts, re-emerging to build these enormous enterprises. Great story, right? Except, of course, the story is not over. And with each passing year, we're learning more and more about the downside of what has happened in Connecticut.
For starters, the casinos have created a pervasive gambling culture in southeastern Connecticut. They've skewed the region's economy sharply toward low-paying service jobs, and they were followed by a steep increase in the number of Connecticut residents seeking treatment for gambling addiction. One of the most remarkable findings of the 2009 State of Connecticut study was that there had been a 400% increase in the number of arrests for embezzlement in Connecticut after the two casinos opened, a rate of increase 10 times the national average. One of the embezzlers, incidentally, was actually my tax collector and pledger. She managed to steal over a couple years, over just about 2 years, enough money to lose $302,000 at the slot machines at Foxwoods. This was a woman who had an impeccable personal and public service record until Foxwoods arrived. And of course, as she gambled more and more and more at Foxwoods, she didn't win. Because the fact is, nobody wins. It is statistically impossible, or virtually impossible, to win over time when the casino regularly takes 10% of just about everything you bet. This woman, in any event, with this impeccable record, wound up going to prison. The total number of embezzlement arrests in southeastern Connecticut and our region was so high that a columnist from the New London Day, our largest newspaper, described southeastern Connecticut as the embezzlement capital of America. You probably didn't know you lived so close to the embezzlement capital of America. Recent embezzlement stories range from a Bridgeport elementary school principal charged with taking $10,000 in student funds and gambling at Mohegan Sun to the chief financial officer of the little town of Winchester, Connecticut, up in the northwest corner, who managed over a 5-year period to steal over $2 million from that community. An embezzlement so serious that it actually brought Winchester, the town, to its knees. For months, it was talking about the possibility of having to close its school system because it had run out of money. Looking at crime overall, a new 2014 study from Western Connecticut University showed that the number of violent crimes, including murder, rape, robbery, and aggravated assault, increased in the towns surrounding the two casinos after they opened, despite a sharp drop in violent crime nationally and in Connecticut as a whole. And while the number of theft crimes decreased along with what was happening in the country, the value of property stolen actually skyrocketed by 40%. According to the study's author, interviews with local police and judicial officials also indicated increases in nonviolent crimes, such as prostitution and illicit drug use. One of the crime stories to capture the public's attention in eastern Connecticut after Foxwoods arrived involved a 48-year-old technical writer from Groton, Connecticut, named John Hill. Hill, whose job paid $54,000 a year, lost nearly $70,000 over a year and a half at Foxwoods playing craps. This was a 2-year period, almost a 2-year period, and he became so desperate that he decided to rob a bank. Quote, "I was calm as could be because I had already gone to hell," Hill said in a newspaper interview. "My life meant nothing to me. I thought of suicide day in and day out. Normally, the thought of robbing a bank would have scared me to death. But that wasn't me. The real John Hill had died already at the craps tables." Hill, incidentally, managed to steal finally $2,700, far short of the $100,000 he set out to take. But he was caught 2 days later, and he went to prison for the next 3 years. Now, as far back as 1997, not so long ago, Congress became so concerned about what it had done in opening the door to this casino explosion that it set up a national commission to study the problem. Now, if you're a cynic, as I am, you might say, well, what else would you expect from Congress but another study? But actually, this study, they did a good job. They worked for 2 years. They made a number of important recommendations, the most important of which was that there be a moratorium on the building of new casinos in the United States until the federal government could get a better handle on the social and economic costs. But as I've already suggested, that recommendation obviously was never implemented. Seems the casino industry didn't like it, and casinos have continued to proliferate. In the process, casinos have become a $70 billion industry. That's just from gambling. That's not from hotels. That's not from restaurants. That's not from entertainment. It's only from gambling, gambling winnings of casinos across America. $70 billion last year. Now, the industry contends, and I know you know this because you're reading it all the time now, the gambling industry contends that casinos spur economic development, that they create jobs, and that they provide states and municipalities with much needed revenue. Independent experts, however, contend that casinos do far more harm than good. They begin with the facts that, after all, gambling is addictive for millions of Americans. That gambling addiction leads to debt, bankruptcies, broken families, and crime. And that gambling addiction doubles within, actually more than doubles, within 10 miles of a casino. Second, they reject the contention that casinos promote economic growth. In Connecticut, for example, the casinos have done little to generate spin-off businesses. They made a lot of money for themselves, but if you look hard for spin-off businesses, you will find very, very, very few. And the casinos have cannibalized many existing businesses. One example of cannibalization actually involved a very good friend of mine who owned and operated one of the most successful restaurants in southeastern Connecticut. And I'll never forget how excited he was when Mohegan Sun opened a couple miles up the street. He told me he was certain that with all the people coming down from Boston and up from New York and over from Albany and over from Providence, surely hundreds of these people would stop at his restaurant every single week in order maybe to have lunch before they went to gamble, maybe to have dinner before they went home. Certainly some of these employees at the end of a tough shift would come in, maybe have a drink at the bar, maybe have a bite to eat before they went home. It took about 31 months for him to decide to close his restaurant because of the competition from the casinos. And I'll never forget what he told me the day he told me he was going to close it. He said, you know, Bob, I cannot believe how naive I was about the way casinos work. But now I understand. People drive to the casinos, they play at the casinos, they go to shows at the casinos, they eat at the casino restaurants, they stay at the casino hotels, and then they fill up their gas tanks at the casino gas stations and drive home. We, as local merchants, rarely, if ever, see any of these casino patrons. As casino mogul Steve Wynn, I know you know who he is, one of the great casino impresarios in the world. As Steve Wynn candidly told an audience of small business people up in Bridgeport, Connecticut, back in 1993 when he was trying to get approval to build a casino in Bridgeport. And he talked to a group of small business people, a group like this, looked out over the audience, somebody raised their hand, asked them a question about what they could expect as far as spin-off businesses and a subsidiary business from the casino. He looked out over the audience and in his own inimitable, candid way, he said, look, get it straight. There is no reason on earth for any of you to expect for more than 1 second that just because people come to my casino you're going to run into your store or restaurant. That's from the horse's mouth. And now, a nonpartisan group of scholars assembled by the Institute for American Values, one of the leading think tanks based in New York City, has published a landmark report that looks at the impact of the casino explosion on the nation as a whole. And I thought you'd be interested by their findings. One, today's regional and local casinos are different from traditional Vegas-style resort casinos that catered predominantly to well-heeled players and came from long distances away and preferred table games. In contrast, the new casinos are primarily filled with a whole new generation of advanced, highly addictive slot machines and cater overwhelmingly to middle and low rollers who live within an hour away, return frequently, and play the slots. Two, modern slot machines have transformed American gambling. They are no longer the one-armed bandits of old. In fact, today's slot machines don't even have arms. They basically tether you to an electronic computer. And as documented in a recent book titled Addiction by Design by a brilliant MIT professor by the name of Natasha Scholl, today's slots have become, in fact, exactly that: sophisticated computers engineered to create fast, continuous betting, designed to maximize what the industry calls time on device, in order to get customers to play longer and lose more over time. Three, casinos represent themselves as benign entertainment companies. I know you know that because that's exactly how they're being represented, or it is being represented here. And they claim that only a very small percentage of their customers have any trouble controlling their gambling. However, multiple independent studies now show that 35 to 50% of casino gambling profits come from problem gamblers. That is, those with some level of gambling addiction, whether they be classified as pathological gamblers or problem gamblers with slightly less gambling characteristics. In other words, think about this for just a moment. In other words, the casino industry's very business model is dependent upon preying upon addicted gamblers, and up to half the money government obtains from casino gambling comes from exploiting addicted citizens and the people around them, their families, their neighbors, their employers, and others close to them. Four, casinos constitute a regressive tax that hits low-wage earners, minorities, and the elderly the hardest, thereby contributing to economic and social inequality. Where have you heard that term before? The big new mantra, right, for both Democrats and Republicans. Social inequality. One of the big instruments for spreading it, casino gambling in these 1,000 casinos and their offshoots across the country. And incidentally, the new face, increasingly, of gambling addiction in America is a woman. A woman aged anywhere from 45 to 85 years old. Because it turns out women are particularly attracted to slot machines. They like slot machines for a number of reasons. One is they don't take a long time to master, to learn, to play. Secondly, they can play, the player can play in isolation. Doesn't have to talk about it. Doesn't have to admit it. Doesn't have to acknowledge it. Doesn't have to tell their family where she has been, what she has been doing, what she has been playing. Women are also attracted to casinos because of the excellent security in casinos, at least until you get out into the parking lot. And women, especially older women, are very attracted to casinos because of the excellent hospitality that casinos extend to older people, especially at Social Security time. As a matter of fact, one of the first things New Jersey's casinos did was make sure that one of the services they offered was cashing Social Security checks. Bring your Social Security check to the casino. This whole thing has developed to the point where increasingly within the casino industry, casinos are now increasingly referred to as daycare for the elderly. What a great place to send our mothers and fathers and other of our elderly. In sum, according to this report from the Institute for American Values, the new regional and local casinos, like the one they want to build in Islandia, drain wealth from communities, weaken nearby businesses, hurt property values, and reduce volunteerism, civic participation, family stability, and other forms of social capital that are at the heart of a successful community. Factoring in all the economic and social costs and benefits of bringing a new casino into a new area, economist Earl Grinnell's, the country's leading expert on the subject, has calculated that the cost-to-benefit ratio of bringing a casino to a new area is greater than 3 to 1 over time. Now, despite the costs,
907.
despite the costs, the conventional wisdom, and I suspect that's true here on Long Island as well as in most of Connecticut, has been that Connecticut's casinos have been a net economic plus for the state of Connecticut in the past because of their success in attracting so many people from out of state who have left their money in Connecticut. But the regional monopoly that allowed Connecticut's casinos to attract so many out-of-state people has been disappearing steadily now for over 7 years, as the Northeast has become increasingly saturated and oversaturated with casinos. As a result, Connecticut's casinos are having to increasingly depend on the gambling losses of Connecticut residents, which according to leading economists simply redistributes existing money within the state without creating any new net economic wealth or economic growth. And the casino glut, as you know, keeps growing. When Foxwoods opened back in 1992, there were only 10 other casinos in the 12 states in the Northeast, all in Atlantic City, 250 miles away. Today, there are 58 casinos in the Northeast, and the number could easily go well over 70 based on those under consideration or already under construction. Thanks to all this new competition, Connecticut's slot revenue is now down 40% from its peak. Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun have now eliminated over 8,000 jobs. They've been increasingly replacing full-time jobs with part-time jobs, as casinos have been doing all over the country, in order to reduce wage costs and eliminate medical benefits. And Foxwoods is mired in debt. The story is increasingly similar now in many, many other states, with growing competition cutting into the profits of casinos in those states. Here in the Northeast, casino winnings are flat or sinking in at least half a dozen states. Delaware has now put millions of dollars trying to bail out its 3 casinos. New Jersey has spent hundreds of millions of dollars trying to prop up its casinos, only to see an entire 1/3 of them close in the last 25 months, and seen revenue, casino revenue, plummet in Atlantic City by now a full 50%. Revenue at Massachusetts' new Plainridge Slots Casino. This is the first casino in Massachusetts. It was one that was supposed to be gangbusters. Already after just 12 months, it's way behind projections. Taking all this into consideration, a new 2016 study just released in March from the prestigious Rockefeller Institute of Government warns state and local governments like Islandia that while new casinos may generate short-term increases in public revenue, that revenue quickly reverse and decline. By now, with all this new information and all the new research that we now have, one might think that states would begin to recognize the foolishness and the short-sightedness of depending on casino revenue. But that, of course, would be too much to ask, and it is not what is happening. Instead, state after state has become so hooked on the casino money that it is seeking to expand gambling, either to increase gambling revenue or replace the gambling revenue it is losing. It is losing now to growing cross-border competition. And nowhere can you see that downtrend more clearly than in my state, Connecticut. Connecticut began by increasing, this is the type of thing that is now. Connecticut began by increasing the casino's free play allowance so the casinos could beef up promotions and attract more customers. The state then legalized the casino game Keno for restaurants, bars, and convenience stores. And now legislative leaders are pushing to legalize off-reservation commercial casino gambling so that the state's 2 casino tribes can build a so-called convenience casino in the Hartford area. They're promoting the Hartford area casino as a way to keep Connecticut residents from going to the new billion-dollar MGM mega casino being built in Springfield, Massachusetts, and thereby slow the loss of casino revenue and jobs in Connecticut. If legislative leaders succeed winning approval for a Hartford area casino, their next step then will be, because they've already begun talking about it, to revive an earlier proposal to build convenience casinos in Bridgeport and the Danbury area in order to keep residents from going where? To New York. Yeah. 1 or more convenience casinos would undoubtedly keep some Connecticut residents going out of state to gamble. Their main effect would be to expand casino gambling in Connecticut by encouraging current Connecticut gamblers to gamble more frequently, because convenience is such a critical element for them, and encouraging residents who do not currently gamble to begin doing so. And once convenience casinos, in a sense, these convenience casinos will do nothing to bring back disappearing out-of-state money. The jobs, the profits, and the tax revenue they produce would come overwhelmingly from the gambling losses of Connecticut people, which would merely recirculate even more money within the state without creating any new economic benefits. Moreover, and I think this is an especially important point to make here, convenience casinos, like video slots convenience casinos OTB wants to build here, are the worst possible kind of casino because they depend overwhelmingly on generating frequent, repeat visits from local people. And these casinos, convenience casinos, will spend millions of dollars in sophisticated marketing to encourage local residents, you, your family, your neighbors, to gamble and to become regular customers, because that is the only way a convenience casino can survive. That is the business they want to bring to Eileen. A very steep price, it seemed to me, simply to bail a bankrupt company. Equally important, don't believe for a second bringing the proposed OTB casino here will be the end of gambling expansion on Long Island. On the contrary, one of the clearest lessons from across the country, and one of the clearest lessons we are now learning in Connecticut, is that each new expansion of legalized gambling encourages gambling promoters to introduce new forms of gambling and increases political pressure to further gambling expansion. For example, video slots are now spreading beyond casinos into local neighborhoods in more and more casino states. There are now some 12,000 video slot machines in so-called lottery delis in the state of Oregon. There are over 20,000 video slots in bars, restaurants, truck stops, fraternal clubs, commercial gaming cafes, as they call them, and even now at the first two flower shops in Illinois. Not to be outdone, a group of Pennsylvania state senators want to permit the creation of up to 20 new satellite slots parlors around the state of Pennsylvania to be awarded to the state's 10 current casinos. There is a well-licensed effort underway to expand sports betting in the United States, including, of course, on daily fantasy sports. And thanks to a 2011 U.S. Justice Department ruling, New Jersey, Delaware, and Nevada have now legalized in-state online gambling for their casinos, and at least a dozen other states are considering it. This has gambling addiction experts particularly concerned because they say online gambling is by far the most addictive form of all because of its fast pace, hundreds of bets, literally every 60 seconds. Its 24-hour availability, be able to gamble in your pajamas, you don't go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, you can always stop off and gamble for a couple hours before you go back to sleep. And of course, in addition to that, the instant gratification aspect of online gambling, as in the case of slots gambling, is particularly attractive to large numbers of people. So, I guess, in ending, what I have to ask, and what you should ask me to address, is there any realistic possibility of stopping this relentless spread of government-promoted gambling? Any chance at all of blocking its expansion into every nook and cranny of our society? Fortunately, the answer is yes. But only if enough people stand up and say no, not here. And the gambling industry comes knocking. It can be done in a number of ways, through a variety of strategies, from statewide political campaigns to local referendums, and from legal challenges to simply sitting down with local officials and letting them know exactly how you feel about this issue and exactly how it is going to affect your vote in the next election. Remarkably, despite all the gambling industry's successes here in the Northeast, these strategies have won a number of important recent victories in the state of New Hampshire as a whole, in West Springfield, East Boston, Palmer, Worcester, Tewksbury, Milford, and Foxborough, Massachusetts, in Newport, Rhode Island, in Windsor and Enfield, Connecticut, and in East Greenbush, Tuxedo, Westbury, and of course most recently in Bedford, Long Island. If you feel strongly about this issue, and I have to believe you do, because that's why you're here this evening, and if you'll take the time to let each of your village board members know exactly where you stand on this issue, I have no doubt that Eileen can be added to this list. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions, Mr. Steele?
What?
No.
Are you? You got the paper. You got the paper. The left.
So, a year or two ago, New York State put a referendum on the ballot, which effectively authorized these casinos. How do the people go about overturning that referenda end up on ballots that have language that is couched in such a way that the voter has no idea what they're voting for. And I think that's probably what happened.
Against the wall.
Well, look, I think there are two answers to your question. The first is the ideal way would be a referendum in town. And I do think that elected officials are very, very susceptible to the argument that, look, we deserve a chance to vote. What are you afraid of? Who among you will say no to giving us a chance to vote on this issue? Let's turn it into a referendum. Short of that, however, look, like you, I served in elected politics, and we know what the, even more important than the contributions, the lifeblood of that business is votes. And in the final analysis, I have to assume that the elected officials in your community would like to stay in office. This has become a bald political issue, bald political struggle. And I think you simply have to put it to each of your elected officials that, look, this issue is important to me. It's important to my family, and I intend to vote this issue. There are a lot of issues, and I know you hope I'll forget this by the time next election rolls around. But I'm not going to forget it. And my vote will be based on how you vote on this issue. I don't know how else to answer that. Yes.
From what you said, OTB is $50 million in debt.
$30 million.
$30 million. Sorry. Do they really expect that the opening of this casino is going to wash that away over a couple of years?
Well, that's a very good question. I don't know if you all heard that question or not, but the question was, look, OTB, Suffolk OTB is $30 million in debt. Did they really expect that debt to be extinguished over the next couple of years? The implication being so they can pay the kind of money that they are claiming they are going to distribute. The fact of the matter is, no matter what any of these casinos promise, they can only pay out what they earn. And if you look at what is happening all around you, it's pretty hard to make an argument that the OTB casino proposed for Islandia is going to be making very much money a few years from now. So that is an excellent question, and it is one that anyone who's going to go for this thing because of short-term considerations should consider. Where is that money going to come from?
This is your next question over here.
Is this pretty much a closed vote as whether we get it or whether we don't? Did the town executives vote on this at a closed meeting? Or
Well, I don't think that this is out of his jurisdiction, so to speak.
I think
That
it's
would be-
better to
that
ask
would be to
Bruce.
us. Right.
This is,
Yeah.
We'll come back to
your
that.
next question is right
Yes,
there.
sir. Yes, sir.
Hi, I appreciate, my name's Terry, I appreciate you coming down here, I really liked what you had to say. And what I'm gathering from you is that we have to stick together, there's strength in numbers, and we have to be heard as a group, but with one voice and one message that we don't want this to happen, because this is the camel getting its nose in the tent. Okay, once we let this happen, then we just get more casinos going, and more problems are going to arise. So, is there an email list going around? Is there anything that we can all put together?
Again, let me,
Okay,
that's, Mr. Steele is just pretty much giving you his background on Connecticut. When we get back to our group, that's what we're talking about.
all right, thank you,
But I agree with you. There's power in numbers. Absolutely.
thanks.
Your next question's over here, and then then we'll come over
Okay.
there.
Hello, Congressman. I just want to let everybody, basically right now I'm going to plant the seed. You have people that went for the red light camera. That red light camera money is going towards the general fund? No, it's not. It's going towards the PBA. That's number one. Number two, Rob Colacco is the county legislator that wants to take the money from the casino and put it over to a campaign contribution. That's how he wants to do it. And I don't know if anybody wants to talk to their county legislators, but find out about that. You need to find out. You need to contact your county legislators all the time and find out, if we do this casino, is the money going to be funded for your campaign contribution? I know. Bruce, I understand, but I needed to plant the seed.
No, that you're perfectly right, but that's not his.
Yeah, I know that, but does that,
we're gonna get.
Congressman, does that happen in the states?
One more question.
You have another question right here.
Hi. So with your experience, especially maybe with these mini convenient locations with the BLTs, do they then, because we were discussing this before, a small group of us, would we be afraid that in Islandia, they would then start to expand the casino into gambling tables, poker, craps, all that kind of, because right now, my understanding is that it's just
I think that's something else I can touch on.
right, but I'm wondering though, from his experience, if you have seen
Yes,
where they
I'd be happy.
smaller
I'd be happy to
and then
answer.
they go bigger.
The experience is now, it's happening all over the country, as casino profits get more and more compressed because of all this new competition. The first thing they do is go to the state or municipality and ask for a reduction in taxes. All these situations are different. That's the first thing. The second thing they did in Rhode Island, for example, they asked the state to absorb some of their marketing expenses. And the next thing they ask for example, in Connecticut, what they're asking for is to build satellite casinos. That's what they're asking for in Pennsylvania right now. And of course, the other thing, to your point, is they say, look, we can't really make it just on slot machines. We need some of these other things. We need daily fantasy sports. We need sports betting. We need craps. We need roulette. We need whatever it may be. So the answer is absolutely, unless the situation is entirely different here than almost anywhere else in the country. That's exactly what you can expect.
And that's pretty much government. You give them an inch and they take a foot.
We have another question in the back.
Gambling in, smoking in New York State is 21, drinking is 21, gambling is only 18. We have one difference between New Jersey and Connecticut. We have 18-year-olds. You could have seniors in high school going to the
Good
casino.
point. One of the first things Foxwoods wanted as it was starting to get into trouble was to lower the age from 21 to 18.
New York is 18.
Ours is already 18. I have one question. How is, in Connecticut with Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun, how is the prostitution there? It's a hotel, there's a casino downstairs. Is there a rise in prostitution?
According to the information from this study from Western Connecticut State University, yes. Yes.
Mr. Steele, you mentioned Foxwoods, Mohegan Sun, and Atlantic City are all in bad shape. Ever since the casino was built at Aqueduct Raceway, this has happened. That is because New York monies are no longer going to Connecticut and New Jersey. They're going to Aqueduct Raceway. Aqueduct Raceway right now is in the process of bringing up a bill with the local political people to make a $400 million expansion on that. And that is still strictly a VLT casino. They don't have table games, they don't have craps, they don't have anything. They have machines. So what I'm saying is, in some places, these places do well. This one has done so well, it's knocking out major things. So I'm not saying I'm for or against the local casino, but it's not all of these places that are terribly bad for people. People like to entertain themselves.
Well, there's a reason for that, and it is that, of course, Aqueduct is the casino there is run by Genting, one of the great and strongest gambling companies in the world, based in Malaysia. And they got into virgin territory, where there were no other casinos. I mean, the reason Steve Wynn wanted to build a casino in Bridgeport was to tap the New York market. Anybody who was going to tap the New York market as the first player was going to make billions of dollars. And that is what has happened there. Now, what Genting is extremely concerned about, of course, is whether or not New Jersey is going to open northern New Jersey to casinos. So this is just a never-ending battle. But what is happening is the more and more competition there is, the harder and harder it is for any casino to make the kind of money it made in the past. But I would answer your question by saying that Genting's Aqueduct Casino is a very unique, special situation. But I appreciate that.
We have time for one last question.
You said that casino, Atlantic City, was Malaysia. Does that mean that money is leaving the country?
I talk about Genting. Genting is based in Malaysia.
Right, so that means the money is leaving the country?
No matter, look, any corporate, MGM is building a casino in Springfield, Massachusetts, for example. When they make that money, where do you think they're going to take it? They're going to take it back to Las Vegas, and that's certainly, sure, they'll spend a little bit of money in Springfield. But the money always goes back to some degree, obviously, to the stockholders, to the owners, and to the corporate entities.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Okay, last one.
I'm just curious, with all the fact and all the information you have, why did you choose to write this book as a novel?
Well, that's an interesting question coming from a novelist. The question was, why did I choose to write this book as a novel instead of a nonfiction book? And the answer is, there have been two very good nonfiction books about the rise of Foxwoods. They are 11, 12 years old, but they're still very, very good books. My hope was that by writing, if I could write an exciting novel with a riveting story, that I could attract a very different audience that is attracted to strictly nonfiction books. And I hope I have achieved that. The book has now gone into its second printing. It's getting reviews from across the country. And my goal was to try to use literature, try to use fiction as a way to illuminate what I think is an increasingly important social problem in America. And I hope that to some extent I've accomplished that. Incidentally, Bruce and Larry asked me to bring some of those books tonight. I did. Anybody who'd like me to sign one, I'd be very happy to do it. Thanks very much for having me.
It was very, very, very interesting, so I urge you all to take a gander back there.
Wow. There's the book. All right.
Bruce, how much are the books?
$15.
Just the laundry list of items that Mr. Steele went through, and I'm just, as he's saying, I'm just writing them up. It's a competition. So this casino will be in competition with Aqueduct, and then, you know, it'll be good for a while, and then not so good for a while. Now we need another casino because they don't have enough money. It's just on and on and on. So the competition of casinos, Jersey, North Jersey, upstate, it's going to fall. It's just not a way that to make an economic generator in this country. And we get just more and more low-paying jobs. Just what we need: more part-time, low-paying jobs. I really can't see the benefit of that. You know, you send your kids to college, they can come back and they can be a barista at the casino. Nice. Gambling addictions, oh boy, just what we need. I thought we had a heroin addiction problem here. Now let's just add another addiction, just what we need to do. I just don't know what, you know, how we can make this better. And a 400% increase in embezzlement, so that's good, that's quite crime. It'll put the lawyers to work and the court systems, all right? So maybe there will be some jobs generated from this. How sad this is. And crime, violent and non-violent, your favorite, non-violent crime. You know, so we got that going. No spin-off business, so you want to open your hot dog stand in front of the casino, forget about it, you're not going to sell a hot dog. You know, what the heck? OTV is 30 million plus in debt. And I'm sorry, I have to jump off because I think it was, no,
I'm going to send around a piece of paper. Please put your email addresses on here. And we'll keep you updated.
okay.
Thank you.
That's the email addresses. We're going to try and keep everybody in the loop. We're not going to let this fall apart. We're going to get together with the group on Wednesday because two groups together make a powerful statement. I think, I know she got me off course, but the thought that when Mayor Dorman saw that his room was full on July 5th, and there was a crowd of people outside, that made him change his attitude and his movements. And
Bruce, does Islandia have a civic association over there?
I don't believe there's an Islandia Civic, there's a Central Islip Civic,
Well, it's a Chamber of Commerce.
there's a Chamber of Commerce.
What do we do, cancel the tomorrow?
All right.
That's announced.
That's a bad word, cancel. It's not cancel. They've postponed their vote. That's what they've done. Postponed their vote for whatever reason, we don't know. Well, I'll get back to that in a minute. But there was a great article or editorial in the newspaper today, and I think it must have been written by Phil Nolan. I'm sure it says the editorial board.
Three editorial people. It was signed
What's-
by three editorial people.
Yeah, but I'm saying it just as well could have been from Phil Nolan. Because suddenly there's $2.25 million a year host fee coming to Islandia. Where did that money come from? OTB is broke. $2.25 million. Where is this money coming from?
lost 350.
So it's laughable, the crap that they put in the paper. They threw Medford under the bus. They threw everybody else under the bus. We're all NIMBYs because we don't want this in our neighborhood. You live in an industrial area, so that's the Hamlet. The Hamlet is an industrial area. All right, don't worry. You guys live in an industrial area. You don't have to worry about the casino. Don't worry.
Bruce, you have a question right here?
Bruce, we're in a unique situation. First, we have Islandia, which is 2.5 square miles, okay? And they have the 100% ruling on it, apparently. Paradise doesn't. I don't think Hampton State do at the moment. So that's one scenario. So we have to convince those 5 board members that we should provide a book.
That are not here
That are not
tonight.
here.
Well, I don't think they would go with
They
it.
were invited.
That's number one. Number two is OTB being $32 million in the hole. Wait, do I have it correct that Delaware North, upon getting approval for the building and doing an opening building, whatever, they pay a fee to OTB? They're buying them out of that bankruptcy?
No,
That's not
that's
correct?
not correct.
Or the rent to the village.
The OTB does not owe money to Delaware
Yeah, well,
North.
we know that, yes.
They have other creditors. They have to pay down the other creditors. They may borrow, which they have a line of credit for like $76 million with Delaware North. So again, what business that's $30 million in debt gets a mortgage for $76 million?
Now, this $2.5 million fee, or whatever they're gonna get, is like a ticket tax, a NASCAR race, that the town gets a,
But the problem is that there's no way OTB can give them this money. It's not in there. It's not in the, there's a set way that OTB is scheduled to pay who they have to pay. And a host fee is not in this bankruptcy court document. So I don't know where this imaginary $2.25 million that's going to give every resident in Islandia no taxes. That's the magic of writing the village.
You have
It's
two
a
questions.
magic.
We have this gentleman first, and then we'll get to you. I'm sorry, right here. Right here.
I was at the other meeting in Islandia the other day, and the mayor somebody was up there because we were outside, we couldn't get inside. It seemed to me, now the village of Islandia is very small. It's very compact and very small. To me, that board sounded 100% for that casino.
That's what it sounded like to me.
Huh?
That's what it sounded like to me.
All right, and what kind of action do we have? I mean, we're outside. I also live in the Hamlet, by the way. And just to let you be aware, next Wednesday, there's a function at the Hamlet, so I don't know how many people are going to be there. What kind of action are we going to have to compete against that small village of Islandia that's really looking to get their taxes reduced? Because that's what he kept on saying.
I think we have to educate them and let them know that if you do get your taxes reduced, it'll be for a very short term. It won't be for a long term. So a year or two, you might have no village taxes, and then it's gonna go up, maybe double.
See, the other thing that's gonna happen, again, the money that comes from casino revenue, according to the studies, and Mr. Steele can probably verify this, for every dollar that the casino generates, it costs $3 in services. So, yes, your village taxes are gonna go down, but guess what? The ambulance company that's within your jurisdiction will, instead of having 2,000 runs a year, you're gonna have 9,000 runs a year. If you wanna look up something interesting about Aqueduct, the brawl at Aqueduct, that was an interesting video someone passed on to me. So, the brawl, it's a fight, brawl. Very interesting, beautiful place. What happens is, on the front end, it looks like the money is coming in, but on the back end, you're just gonna be paying more. So, I'm gonna.
Village tax may go
Village
down,
tax may
but
go
every
down,
other tax
your
will go
county
up.
tax is gonna go up, the tax of your fire department, your police. The village doesn't have their own police force, they use Suffolk County Police. We all pay for Suffolk County Police. So now when we have to put 500 more cops on the job, just to quell the fights in Islandia, we all will pay that increase, not just Islandia. We're great if Islandia gets a casino and they get their own police force, fine, but it doesn't work that way. Again, there is no wall around Islandia. Everything bleeds across.
How would you go about,
Hold on 1 second, Chris, we have another question right here first, and then I got you, Chris.
What's the question about a statement on the inquiry about the two and four and really doesn't have supposedly coming directly from the parent company and not from...
No, in this imaginary article that someone wrote, that the magic money comes from the sky, I guess, because they don't say who's paying, but a host fee. Host fee, I don't know. It's the first, I went to the OTV.
Is host spelled B-R-I-D-E?
I went with the Medford folks to the Ways and Means Committee that Mr. Sumi is on, when OTV testified before them to explain how they were going to pay down their $30 million debt. They were supposed to pay $2 million and change this year. I don't think we got a check yet, did we? They're supposed to pay $3 million next year. If this casino doesn't go in 3 months, they can't pay that. So, to get to the whole crux of the matter, we need to stop Islandia, and we need to stop the casino. And the only way we're going to do that is kind of a chess match, and this is what Medford had done right from the beginning. They had a lawyer, and they looked at the law, and basically, we already think that Mr. Dorman almost made his first error with the vote and the manner in which he was putting it out. But that's something else. But so what's going to happen is we're going to fight them in the law the same way that that same way Medford fought them. It's got to be with a lawyer. They make a move, we counter the move. It's just an on and on.
I can tell you this, Mr. Dorman said that he was going to discuss this in the executive board. And according to open meetings law, that's against open meetings law. So he's violating open meetings law by discussing it in executive board. It should be an open, public discussion. So that is one way that the residents can fight that. You can just call up Robert Freeman, open meetings law, NYSOML, and his name will come up and he'll tell you how to fix that.
Bruce?
Yeah.
Just two quick things.
And then you have Chris in the back.
Two quick things. First of all, I believe, I won't hold you to this, but it'll point you in a direction at least to do some research. I believe that the citing fee comes from the company, not from the people. So just check that out. Secondly, in answer to the fella in the back who asked what can we do, maybe the Civic wants to print up some flyers, organize a map, flyers with pertinent information. And I mean, there aren't that many streets in the village of Islandia.
There's about 100 of us.
If everybody took a street and just, spent a couple of hours and dropped off a flyer, you'd go a long way towards educating.
Hold on 1 second, we have Chris in
well,
the
that was my
back.
question.
And then legislator Kennedy would like to have a word.
My question was, how would you educate these people about this? What forum would you set up, or, I know we send out flyers, but Islandia is small, but Central Ice is part of Islandia.
No, they don't get to vote.
Oh, they don't get to vote?
Just like we don't.
We actually, my neighbor and I yesterday, we went to Silverwood and we walked around the community with our children to inform some of the residents, and it was shocking how many people do little to nothing about what's going on.
Unfortunately, that's what happens. I mean, luckily, we had you folks, you all were on social media, or a friend, someone shared an email with you, and you all came down. But without letting neighbors know, you know, we're not gonna get anywhere, so we said it was an excellent idea.
And we can coordinate that with the email lists that are going around tonight. We can certainly coordinate that, and we have some residents here as well. Hold on one second, we have.
Just quickly follow up. Did you
and-
find that effective? Were people receptive?
Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
Were people, they were surprised?
So that's right.
So we'll definitely coordinate that.
Anything about it, anything about it. We spent a lot of time, yeah, educating them on what's going on.
So that's good to know. Okay, we have legislative candidates.
Hi. First, I want to answer the question about how to get a referendum on. I did some research on a different issue when I first came in.
Quiet over there, please.
It is a percentage. You need a petition. You need to get the signatures of a certain, I can't remember exactly, percentage of how many voters
I believe it's 5%.
voted in the last gubernatorial race. So 5%. I guesstimated that it was going to be, for the one issue, 59,000 signatures. I would also, something that would have to be researched is if it's within the 10-mile radius or the majority of the village and the surrounding, the small, I don't know what the surrounding area would be, but that's something that you can easily look up. It's amazing to see all of you here. This is not my district. Eilandia is not my district. Eilandia used to be my district, but when they redistricted, they took it away. I am here because I am getting a tremendous amount of phone calls in the last week and a half that go all the way from Centering to Comac on my side, and they're all against the casino. On Wednesday night, at the Hop Fire Department, they are having another one. Rumor has it that the Hop School District has hired an attorney. So if you all got together, you could be a really powerful voice.
Unfortunately, we
And
have our
that's
league
what
fest.
gets people to change their mind in politics. Numbers.
Yes, so we actually, Ron was right here before, right, so we've already made that commitment to join as a group.
And can I just say one other thing, and it's nothing to do with it? Tomorrow night at 6:30 at the legislature, any of you who is concerned about Lake Ronkonkoma, we have 4 speakers coming out, the DPC, USGS, the Geological Service, the Health Department, and the testers for the 2 bacteria that have been found in the lake. So it'll be informative, 6:30 at the legislature.
Hold on, you have this gentleman here, and then the woman in the back.
2 years down the road, if this casino goes in, 2 years down the road, if it fails, what's the next step? Do they pull out the machines, or they just open up somewhere else to try to make up this, difference in revenue?
I don't know what the next step is, but I do know the next step in their minds is a full-blown casino by 2020.
The tables and everything.
There's one casino location left in that 2013 referendum
That Dean Skelos, just want to remind everyone.
that they're committed to have one full casino on Long Island. And if Eilandia is in place, I'm sure that would be a good opportunity for them to make that a full-blown casino.
You have the lady in the back, and then you have this gentleman.
Well, it's, it's a short time, a very short time. But until the Eilandia board votes on that, nothing can happen.
But we can all call him every day.
Oh,
We can email him every day.
We need
And
to.
let him know that we don't want this here.
Law of
I got you
this
on the stack, I got you on the stack. You have the lady in the back.
I'm going to suggest a change.org online petition. We had one in Medford.
We will do that as well.
Okay.
You want, okay, you have this gentleman in green in the back?
I got a quick question. Is there another way
I got
to
one
perhaps
step.
approach this, to stop this. In other words, I'm sure the casino people are saying that we're gonna bring in all these people, that's gonna bring in all this revenue, and it's gonna be a boon to the local economy. So is there any way to say, well, you know what? With all these people coming in, it's gonna increase the amount of sewage going into the district. And is there any way to do demand an environmental impact study
Yes.
from that standpoint?
Yes, we actually already, a number of people have filed, foiled all the secret requests, all the secret traffic study that they've done, the environmental assessment that they've done. They haven't done a study, they've done an
Well,
assessment.
the point I'm making is that the sewage has to go somewhere.
All keep down, I
So
can't hear the question, please.
So it's either gonna go into the groundwater through cesspools, or it's gonna be taken down to like Bergen Point via tanker trucks.
The hotel has a sewage.
They do. But what's it rated for? The sewage treatment plant's always rated for a certain amount.
Right, well, that's what the secret review will let us
Okay.
know. So we can only go by what the.
I got you, I'm just saying,
entity said at the
sometimes,
meeting, and of course at the meeting it said everything met code, but we filed FOIL requests for all the secret, and that's part of the program we're talking about. When you sit down with a lawyer and you have to take apart proposals that they put forward. You have to pick holes in them. This is what they did in Medford. This is
Okay.
why Suffolk OTB felt they were above the law when they bought the property in Medford and said, we're just gonna build a building. And we are not, we don't have to follow town code because we're a state agency, but it turns out that they weren't a state agency in that effect, and they had to follow town codes. So this is the same situation in Islandia. Every town code, every village code has to be followed to the T. If they don't, then they file an injunction or an Article 78 case against them, and this is what slows down the process of a casino going in.
And we're gonna
And
contact their zoning board as
it's a
well.
very laborious process, and it's expensive, and it's gonna cost. And that's probably one of the things that we're probably gonna have to do is either a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe program, because the thing is, as it's been said before, that every property within a certain radius of these casinos, your property values go down. So I think it would be better to throw a little bit of
10
money into
miles, he
that.
said. We are all within 10 miles.
Some people say, I've heard 1, 5, and 10, so.
I believe Mr. Steele said 10 miles.
So
Yeah.
basically what happens is, I would rather pay up front and try and stop it than find out later when I go to sell my house.
Hold on. We had a question over here. Right here.
I'm from Hong Kong. I live right around the corner. 3 of our school buildings are right around the corner from there. Isn't there some kind of zoning law that they have to be?
We're gonna check with the town, the zoning. We're gonna check with the town, the zoning. There's also a Mid-Suffolk Pediatrics where most of us
Right
take our
across from
children.
there.
Right
My
across.
kids go there.
Right. So we have to check the zoning laws with the village. I'm sorry, there was,
Well, they may be
this
state,
gentleman had a
they may be
question.
state
that
laws
was-
also that may supersede that, as far as gaming, right? Just from schools.
Two quick things. One,
This gentleman and
did
then-
anybody contact Lee Zeldin to find out where he stands on this issue?
He's gonna be
And
at the
two-
Huffman meeting next week.
And
No,
two,
Wednesday.
I didn't see News 12 or anybody here really, I don't know who he was.
That was Files.
Huh?
That was Files.
Okay, he was here the last time. But are we in contact with that particular news channel, it is Long Island, to find out what kind of stance they want to help, or if...
Newsday?
No, News 12. I mean, what they do, remember, every half an hour, they keep on repeating the same things over and
They're a
over.
news station, they're not gonna be pro.
Yeah, they're not gonna pick a side.
But could they put something on about
Well, they should,
these
they
groups
were
that are
invited
coming
here.
here
I
and
guess.
protesting?
We did invite them
They were
here.
invited here. I mean, I
I'll take
don't know why.
We also, we spoke at 103.9 on the radio, right here, our local radio station at noon on Tuesday and Wednesday. CBS did an interview. They took the stupidest clip. I'm really annoyed with them. Don't watch CBS too. Don't just so, they clipped out all the good things, and then when you sum up and they just give you, right, so you kind of look like a NIMBY instead of the good
You may not get
information
what
they
you
gave.
want from a news call.
wanted to mention two things. One was today I started on moveon.org, a raw
Yeah, we just got it.
petition.
We just got it.
And what was that?
We just got it. Thank you.
Within an hour, I had about 30 people signing it. 90% of them I didn't know. It was just a few friends forwarded, shared. So I'm sure if there was something more, factual out there, because I kind of based it on the one I had found for Medford. I'm sure I didn't pick all the points or highlight the right ones. I'm sure it would be much more people knowing the subject, getting involved, because then they'll see how it's
That's
affecting
why
them.
we put everybody on the email list, and then as the petition goes out, it's gonna hit everybody.
I have one
I
paper,
made
does
sure-
anyone else have another email list over there?
I made sure that the petition, I think every 50 people that sign it, it gets delivered to congressmen, to Governor Cuomo, to every person that I can think that could have a say in this, legislators, local county, planning boards. I put anyone there that I could.
Why don't we, Bruce, you can share that on top of the Civic
Okay,
page.
I can do that. And then one other thing, it might sound very childish, but it's a fact, something that happened. So I was there at that July 5th meeting. My Cub Scouts went to present the color guard. We didn't know what was going on until we were outside and listening. I decided to stay there and talk as a resident. I'm telling you that about maybe, I might be wrong, 50 or 60 people spoke against it. They were not even looking at these people. When the 4 characters that got up there and were very loud and not very proper with some things spoke, then they paid attention. One of the residents that was against it actually had to say to the mayor, "Are you really listening to me?" And he said, "Of course I am," with a sarcasm. I felt really bad. I've done so much volunteer work for this mayor because, I never got into the politics part. I'm more for the community, showing the kids to be part of the community. I was really, really shocked to see that they have it. At that point, I said, maybe I'm reading wrong.
No,
Maybe I'm
I
thinking
think a
very
lot of
much.
us that were
But
there
then
felt
this
that
is
way.
the end of the story. I went there Saturday. They had an Islandia barbecue for the community, which I've been to for 4 years. I'm not from Islandia. I'm from Ronkonkoma. But I have children from all over because we share. My Cub Scouts are from different schools. We're taking a picture with all the volunteers, about 50 or 60 people, and he groups us up and he stands there and he says, instead of cheese, let's say casino. Everybody stayed quiet. It was like, we all looked at each other, and that started me talking. I didn't want to bring it up with people, then I started telling my other leaders, my other people. I was like, really? And this is that moment I was convinced that even after July 5th, I wasn't reading him wrong. He had his decision. I don't know how the other board of trustees, but they're the people
They were
that are going to
very
be
quiet
voting.
that night, and their faces were a bit stoic. So you couldn't really tell what they wanted, but you can tell right away that the mayor was all for it. So, you have another question here, and this gentleman in the green, and then we have time for one more question over there.
Was that me?
You, yes.
I'm glad this lady just said it, because I'm thinking along the same lines. These 6 people were invited here tonight. Look around, they're not here. They're gonna be invited Wednesday night. I'm sure they won't be there either. 50 people or so stood up that night from their own town, from Islandia, who said they didn't want it. There was a group there, other than the 2 veterans and a couple of big 6 or 8 people sitting in the far right that wanted it. So their own people don't want it, yet they're showing apathy towards the meetings we're having right now.
Yeah, they're Islandia, they don't.
Okay, so that's one group. The majority of Islandia who live there, who pay the taxes, who use the services, don't want it. It appears to me that they're showing apathy toward this, saying, spin your wheels, we'll postpone our decision for 2 weeks, but we know which way we're going.
Just make sure if you're an Islandia resident, that you get, whatever meeting that they're gonna have and their decision and their discussion on it, it must be done in public or it violates open meeting law. Make sure you let your mayor know that.
The other thing, like, what the young ladies from Islandia, you went down their street, or you went to the street that you didn't live on, right?
Went to a bunch of streets.
Went to a bunch of streets, and he knocked on doors and started talking to neighbors about it. And neighbors don't know what's
I've also
coming.
been at meetings for 4 months asking them every single meeting. My house is the closest to the hotel. I'm 59.25 feet from the hotel. I have small children. My neighbors are starting their families. It's a disgrace. The mayor had me thinking that we were the only people opposed to it. Kept us away from our community, from our neighbors. Told us not to even bother talking to anybody about it. And I go to the meetings. I'm just not going to do it.
All right, hold on 1 second, I got this lady over there, and then you.
What needs to be done is, as somebody said, education. If there's 3,300 people in the town, in the village of Islandia, those people need to know what's going on in their village, because it's not being portrayed to them, it's not being explained to them. So let's get those people, let's get information out.
Excuse me, I'm a Village Islandia resident, and it is being, we know everything. They have sent us letters to our homes
Where do you live?
in Islandia, on Chapter Street, and we have got letters. Every Saturday, he did a cup with Joe. Diane knows it, she's a board of trustee.
Okay,
Well,
hold on
you're
1
Patty
second.
Peters' cousin, aren't you?
Yes, I am, and is there anything wrong with that?
Okay,
I could voice my opinion just like
We're
she
gonna stop
can,
this right
right?
now. We have a question here from you, please.
I don't have a
We're
question.
not gonna have outbursts at this meeting. This is information only, thank you.
I live in Hop Hog, but I was forced into the village of Alania, which I did not want. And we had no say in it because we didn't have that many people from Hop Hog to vote against the village. Going back to 1983. I have nothing but aggravation for the whole time I've been in this village. The village does nothing for me but take my garbage. I live on a state road. They don't plow my roads, they don't sweep my roads, they don't do anything. But I have to pay them $600 a year. That is another thing. Talking about your sewers, you're talking about the Mario with the sewers, they're almost totally full with capacity of sewage. They cannot take it because Townhouse Village tried to get them to hook up because they got caught putting their sludge out on the expressway. There were fines and everything because their full capacity, it was running over their sewage and everything.
Okay, we had this gentleman, this lady.
They had no place to do this. It wasn't done here. But anyway, that was the other thing. But as far as the meeting the other evening, the meeting when you went, it was filled up with people from out of Alania or certain people that were friends with Alan Dorman, okay? They had the scouts there, they had the veterans there, and he stands behind the veterans all the time. I am sorry to say I'm a very proud person, and I'm for all veterans. I had 7 brothers in World War II, and I have a brother that was in the Korean War, and I had a nephew that was in Vietnam. My whole family is full of veterans. And I did the veterans for the 350th anniversary for the town of Smithtown. I took that upon myself, and I did that whole thing, and it was open for a full week. We did that. Plus, I also did the veterans for my church. That was just all in the Smithtown News, 2 pages about the plaque that was reinstated and put back up on my wall in my church. So I am all veteran. I don't know what Al Dorman is, but he stands behind the veterans, and it's a disgrace what he does. And he just means a lot.
Okay, we had, I'm
He
sorry,
uses
we have this gentleman here.
Attending the meeting last week, the arrogance of the town, I live here 40 years. Village, I'm sorry. The arrogance of the village.
I don't even work for the town.
The arrogance that I saw there, I probably in 40 years of living out here and being a previous civic board member, the previous civic 25 years, I was vice president, as you know. I've been to 100
Did you have to be
meetings.
bound to
I have never seen a meeting as a presentation like that with the architects and planners and the people who made the presentation. There wasn't a map. I didn't see a map.
They were on the side.
I didn't see an easel. Nothing was ever brought up. they called Motor Parkway a five-lane highway. We know from Veterans Way to the 7-Eleven on Nichols, it's one lane with multiple bus stops.
They did offer to answer any questions, but the mayor did not let them answer any questions. I just want to
Not
put that out there.
saying anything, not letting them talk and calling that a commercial zone. Of course it's a commercial zone. Anything on that side of the highway is a commercial zone. Just like it's the most northernest part of the town of Iceland. That's a forgotten part of the town of Iceland. Always been that way. So it's just the point I'm trying to make.
No, perfect point, because that's, when I foiled that request today, I said, we need a traffic study, because again, those are the things that we're gonna put the roadblocks to this casino, because when they say there's no problem with traffic, we can prove to them that there is a traffic problem. When they say there's no problem with sewage, we can prove to them there's a sewage problem. And through the various, that's it's a very boring way to do it, but that's the way it has to be done. And I would love to be, let's go march on the village and convince them to vote no. That would be the greatest thing in the world.
Diane, you're on the second.
But that's not the way this fight goes on. It takes
This is the next question here, and then you have the man in the green, and then Diane.
No, I wanted to address the idea that it's a done deal. You know, that it seemed like what we were seeing was a done deal. It is a classic political tactic to make people think that it's over and they have no say. Right? That's a tactic. So it's only over when we decide it's over.
That's right.
Because there's always another thing.
Seriously, I think the only way you're gonna stop this, if you're right about the property values going down, is to have a mass demonstration of everybody in the area denying water that their property values will go down if this casino goes in. Then I think you'll see action, and have it right in front of the mayor's office.
And then we have Diane, and then this gentleman in the striped shirt, and then we're gonna finish our questions for tonight. It's getting late. Okay, go ahead, Larry.
All right, so, it's just an FYI that there's several parcels of land in between the hotel and Mid-Suffolk Pediatric that I was mentioning that are for sale currently. I didn't see those signs. So there's gonna be expansions to
There's
it.
room for expansion, is what you're saying.
Yeah, we
Right,
know.
that's interesting to know.
And the second part of my
Hold on one
question.
second. Did everyone hear what he said? There is some land that is available and for sale next to the hotel. So there might be room for expansion, so just keep that in the back of your mind.
And the second question is does the Hub's sewer line still going through Islandia, or is that switched going?
No, that is not going through Eileen.
Not going through Islandia.
Right now, there's no
No,
change,
no plan.
there's no plan, as far as I know.
There's no plan yet.
Yeah, I said the Hub.
You have news for us?
I think you know the answer to that.
There hasn't been any definitive decision, but I know that the mayor has been in conversations with the county with respect to Johnson Avenue and the sewer line.
Johnson Avenue is not We have, this gentleman in the striped shirt, and then Diane, and then that's gonna be our last question.
You want to draw some attention to the community, the people that, like, I've been talking to my gang at Nob Hill the other day, and they disgust me. What casino? What casino? You know, you can go to the dollar store, you get these white sheets of cardboard. You get a couple of magic markers. My friends here know exactly what I'm talking about. We do it all the time. You want to get a message out, you go out on a street corner with a half a dozen people here, you put them over there, the next corner on Bisson Highway, Vents Highway, Old Nichols Road. People drive by and they say, stop the casino. What casino? But at least it draws attention. Or you can let them know there's a meeting next Wednesday night. I know it's a little late for this week. But the more attention you draw, the better it is, because it puts a little nudge into these people that think that they have no opposition, like you read in Newsday the other day. There's no opposition we've heard. And one of the things, this is a big deal. I've been to some meetings. I work for a construction outfit, and they would send us to these networking events, and you'd have these developers there. The developers would say, you know, you go back and you talk to your family, your friends, your neighbors, and you got to tell them to call their politicians to sway the public. sway the public to change the zoning. Once they change the zoning, that's when they can do anything they want. And that's when they stick it to us, and people, you go to sleep at night, you wake up in the morning and you're screwed. A lot of people don't even know it, and then it's too late. So that's why it's important to just try to draw attention to as many people as you can, as fast as you can, and often too. Consistency is a big deal. Thank you very much.
We had one more question, Diane, and then
It wasn't a question, but it was always advertised as Radisson of Hop Hop, you know, they always used to dress it up, they never use Eilandia, and now, you know, obviously the location is Eilandia, and Eilandia is taking control over this, and I don't think it's right. I don't think it's right.
do you have, does anyone have any, again, we want to make sure that you all know that this is a joint effort between the homeowners association and the Hamlet, I can't, you say that name.
Hamlet of Windwatch Homeowners Association.
There you go, Hamlet of Windwatch Homeowners Association and Ronkonkoma Civic. We would love to get anybody else that wants to be involved. If there's any more questions for Bruce or for Larry, we're going to take like maybe 2 or 3 more, and then we're going to wrap it up for the night. We have to vacate. We have a quick statement from Charles.
Everyone, I just wanted to stand up a second. Just listen. This young lady, how many children do you have, Leslie?
No, 4.
4, and how many grandchildren?
I'm expecting my 7.
Okay, she works hard for this county. She just doesn't work in her district. You see that she's here today. I'm not putting her on a grandstand, but I'm telling you facts. You had said that you don't like politics. Ask Miss Leslie later how she got involved with politics. And then ask Tom Silmy how he got involved with politics. That's what you need to do.
Okay, we have this.
One other thing I wanted to say is I had someone from Veterans Way, the veterans. Everyone must have read about their contaminated soil. This was all done through the Daytree family that has politics through the town of Iceland. Well, Al Dorman went over there and was so proudly taking pictures and standing up with all the veterans and everything and having his pictures in the paper. Well, lo and behold, there was a meeting a couple weeks back that I was told by one of the veterans that told me he was at this meeting. And Al Dorman was there, and he had his hat on, he come over there shaking hands with everything, and when he came to this particular veteran, put his hand in his pocket and walked away from him. What a disgrace, because all the veterans on Veterans Way all have their houses for sale now, they want out. They are so disgusting. And when they heard about this casino, they are just really disgusting.
Well, we will be starting a petition. We will be keeping we will update you on our website, Ronkonkoma.org. Hold on one second. If we do a rally, we will put that information up there, and I'm sure we will share it on your website as well. So just keep going to the website, Ronkonkoma.org, and we'll update you there. Also, if you have your emails, we will send out an email blast. The more we email the trustees and the mayor, the more you're going to get something done. He's going to have to listen. So call him, email him, and we will start a petition, and we will make sure it gets done. We'll be around for more questions afterwards, but we're not going to take any more public questions.
Lawn signs, Facebook,
Lawn signs.
We will get it all out together. I just want to make one more thing. Our latest practice on Wednesday is a movie night for all your children. Zootopia is showing. It's free parking, and every Wednesday after that in July we have a concert.
Round of applause for Bruce and Eileen.
I think